I don't know. Is it end up being the game of the year? Because here's the problem: when you go to a game and you're in there, and again, I took the weekend off. I took Lauren down there because LSU, Alabama, as you know, like it's a big thing. House divided in our family. Sometimes when you watch a game, you're so caught up in watching the game, you don't understand like the big kind of impact the game has on college football, not only in this season but just kind of long term. Was this the game of the year? Was it Tennessee, Alabama earlier this year? I mean, what did you make of it?
Well, I mean, it was. How many times have we had that? Hey, this is the game of the century, and then a little bit later we have another game of the century. We're all prisoners of the moment, and this game certainly had far-reaching tentacles that have impacted a lot of different things around it. Alabama, their first season of multiple losses since 2010.
This early, yeah.
Before the Iron Bowl. They are, by all means, out of the SEC championship race, out of the college football playoff race. So that's an interesting dynamic. And LSU is directly in there. Like, you can't tell me that LSU winning the SEC championship, even though they have 2 losses, is not going to find themselves in the college football playoffs. It's just not going to happen.
The only way that happens is if, and there's a way in which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, if Alabama beats Ole Miss, LSU only has to win one of their next 2 games to go into the SEC championship. So,
but what about the game on the Bayou? LSU grew up in every facet by answering the Bama Challenge, one of the great games of the year in college football. Brian Kelly, the huge win. Well, so much happening in that game that remains to be seen. LSU is certainly in the best shape to win. 88% chance to win the West. They win last 2 games, or I mean, it's fairly complicated. What's interesting, really, is that Alabama, what do they have, a 6% chance? Ole Miss is not in great shape either. We'll continue to update you on that throughout the world. And Brian Kelly KO's Nick Saban in the most dramatic way possible. Remember, he told us the other day that was one of the reasons he came or left Notre Dame, was he wanted to play Alabama and beat Nick Saban. He has now done that.
Some players of the week, Jaden Daniels, back-to-back. Obviously, we had the off week, but back-to-back SEC Offensive Player of the Week. And then we had Freshman of the Week, Mason Taylor. Pretty good selection there, I would say. And then Defensive Player Harold Perkins. So congratulations to those guys based upon their play. Really good win. Our guys got 24 hours to enjoy it, and now our focus is on another SEC opponent on the road. Arkansas, it's the Golden Boot, another rivalry trophy. Of course, they hold the trophy from last year's 16-13 win at Tiger Stadium. And, obviously playing a team that has a very prolific offense, and in terms of players, it starts with their quarterback. I think it's the 5th time now we've seen a big physical quarterback. KJ Jefferson, 6'3", 240. He's got 17 passing touchdowns, 6 rushing touchdowns. He's going to be a handful. Another guy that we've got to be able to control what he does and get him on the ground. Sanders, Raheem, the running back, probably the biggest back that we'll see. 6'2", 227, leads the SEC in rushing. He's got over 1,000 yards. So that 1-2 combination with arguably the best center in all of college football in Stromberg, a very good scheme. Accomplished SEC wide receivers. This is a really good offense that we're going to have to slow down. And Sam Pittman, I have a great deal of respect for him. A very good football coach. He'll have his football team ready to go. Drew Sanders on defense leads the SEC in sacks with 7.5 sacks. Really good football player, and they do a lot of really good things with him. He plays inside, but they move him to an outside position where he can come off the edge. We'll have to be able to account for him. Got a couple of former LSU players in their starting defense, Landon Jackson, Dwight McLaughlin, good football players that obviously are playing well for them. And their special teams is really good. They do a lot of different things that we'll have to be alert for, be on top of, and make sure that we do a really good job.
To quote the great Herm Edwards, you play to win the game, and that's exactly what LSU did Saturday night, going for the 2-point conversion and win against number 6 Alabama. A bold move by head coach Brian Kelly, but was it the biggest win of his career?
The biggest win of my career is going to be when we win a national championship. And so I'm focused on one thing when I came down here, and that's to win championships. That's one game. It was an exciting win, but I don't put it in the category of the biggest.
LSU has exceeded expectations this season, especially when you consider they lost week 1 to Florida State. From week 1 to now, their projections have changed drastically. They had just a 3% chance to win the division after that loss, now sit at 88 with a 17% chance to win the SEC. Des, I'll start with you. How far should LSU move up in this week's rankings?
Well, because LSU opened up a week ago at number 10, I don't think they should move any higher than number 7 when the rankings come out tonight. Don't forget, they lost to a Florida State team that's unranked. They're 6-3 right now. And so I believe that they shouldn't move any higher than number 7. 8 may be a little too low, but I would not expect them to go to number 6, Greg. I mean, don't forget, they also lost at home to Tennessee 40-13, which is really an ugly, ugly home loss. So I would say no higher than number 7 for me, Greg.
Well, I'd actually have them at 9. And people are going to say, wait, hang on, that's only one spot. Well, I don't think they should have been 10 last week. And we've seen a lot of LSU. I think that they're really, really good and really, really talented, but we've seen them get off to slow starts. We've seen them struggle at times. We've seen them also make adjustments at halftime and play really well in the second half of a lot of football games. So I have tremendous respect for LSU, but right now I can't justify having them being in front of any of the Pac-12 teams right now. I would have UCLA, I'd have USC, and I'd have Oregon in front of what I think is an excellent LSU team. LSU can still get there, and they're going to need some chaos in front of them, but right now I can't justify having them Heather in front of any one-loss teams.
Well, I think Des is right. I think they're going to be hovering around number 7, and people have to remember that they have to win out, which I think they can. But if they win out and win the SEC, they have a chance to make history as the first 2-loss team in the college football playoff, and that's because they would have had a win against Alabama, and they would have had a win against SEC champion Georgia in the SEC championship game. So I would not pick them to beat Georgia on that, but they are in a position to enter that conversation.
Not only, Heather, if I'm not mistaken, not only will they be the first 2-loss team, but will they not be the first team that ever lost the first game of the season and still made it to the college football playoffs too?
Yeah, you might be right, because when Ohio State lost to Virginia Tech in 2014 and went on to run the table, that was week 2, I believe. But Des, to your point about Florida State, watch tonight if the Seminoles are ranked in the top 25, because all of a sudden a 1-point loss to a CFP top 25 team doesn't look all that bad.
Arkansas came back home for homecoming, taking on the ranked Liberty Flames. And man, the Flames just out-physicaled the Hogs, certainly up front. When you look at the offensive line, they couldn't get the run game going. KJ Jefferson looked a little banged up despite a last-ditch effort to send this one into overtime, but the Razorbacks fall.
My word for the weekend is already. And that is because you're saying LSU already under Brian Kelly beat Nick Saban? Are you saying LSU already has a chance and is a front runner to have the SEC West champion? Are you saying already Brian Kelly has overperformed and outproven everybody that had made fun of his accent and saying that they had a couple years away? They are ahead of schedule already, and I got to pour out and give the man the flowers because they deserve it after their performance this weekend. I knew they were an improved team, but I didn't know that they were going to win that game. That says a lot about this LSU team and program already.
Arkansas won last season in the battle for the Golden Boot. The Razorbacks looking to win back-to-back for the third time since 1996. Now entering the year, LSU had a 4% chance to win the West, according to ESPN Analytics. Crazy how things have changed. Here's both head coaches on facing each other this weekend.
Our focus is on another SEC opponent on the road. Arkansas, it's the Golden Boot, another rivalry trophy. KJ Jefferson, 6'3", 240. Sanders, Raheem, the running back, probably the biggest back that we'll see, 6'2", 227. That 1-2 combination with arguably the best center in all of college football in Stromberg. This is a really good offense that we're going to have to slow down.
They're a physical, downhill running offense that if they want to get the ball outside, Daniels is a guy that's going to get it outside, and he's hard to bring down. But they've been playing really well. They've got a young freshman, Perkins. He's really a talented young guy, too. They have a lot of speed. They're LSU. They've got a lot of talent, and they're big. They're playing really well right now.
We told you about that 4% chance for the Tigers to win the West. Well, Brian Kelly has a chance to become the 4th coach to reach the conference championship game in his first season with an SEC school. He can do that this weekend, as we said earlier, with a win over Arkansas and an Ole Miss loss to Alabama. When it comes to this rivalry game, Stinch, what does Jaden Daniels have to do to continue to do what he's been doing for the last several weeks? Does that make sense?
Yep, what you said.
Yeah.
Everything you just said, just keep doing that, Jaden, more than anything else. I mean, it's a secondary that you can take advantage of. They've struggled at times in games. This offensive front has improved, and you've seen weapons not only emerge, but weapons that we anticipated being kind of a threat offensively. I think they've really come around, and it's largely because I think this coaching staff now understands what they have in Jaden Daniels. Keeping in mind, new coaching staff, new quarterback, everything's new. They're new to one another. I think to be able to leverage his strengths, which are quite obvious at this point, a true dual threat, maybe the best dual threat quarterback in the conference.
Well, it's really cool to see that, LSU has improved so much and that they are the more talented team right now, especially with Arkansas, all the injuries. But that may play right into what Arkansas wants. Arkansas has been such an up and down case all year long. They go out there and had a huge win against BYU when everybody said they couldn't win a game. They couldn't force turnovers. They couldn't tackle. And then last week they go out there and lay an egg versus Liberty right behind it. So maybe they'll get their best performance this week versus LSU because that is what Arkansas likes to do. They're going to play up and down sometimes. And when they play well, they play really well. KJ Jefferson must have a bring his game back to life after an off game last week versus Liberty. I'm looking forward to him and what this offense will do to kind of give themselves a chance to win this game because you can't count on their defense to tackle 4 quarters. So they're going to have to need some big plays on defense, and offensively, they got to carry this team.
Razorback fans hoping to break out Larry the bowling ball potentially this weekend. As the Hogs still looking to become bowl eligible, they would do that with a win over LSU. Come on.
It's lofty expectations here. Being that LSU is such a powerhouse, they want to win. Anything less than the 10 wins is a loss here. I want to live up to those expectations.
Jaden Daniels said, risk reward, we're going to make you pay.
You weren't guaranteed the quarterback job when you decided to come to LSU. So why LSU?
The coaches didn't guarantee me anything. They just said you have a chance to play at the highest level in the best conference in college football. So it was all about me going out there and putting in the work, showing the coaches that I was the right guy for the job and that they could trust me on the field.
He's willing to bet on himself. And so when you have guys that are not looking for, hey, you got to give me an NIL or you got to give me this, he said, you know what, I'm going to invest in myself because I'm going to be your quarterback.
This is a very special place. How do you describe how Baton Rouge has embraced you?
I mean, it just took me in as one of his own, As soon as they announced me as a starting quarterback, just coming out here and we started winning football games, you could feel the love. I never really experienced something like this. Coming from the West Coast, coming down the tunnel, you could hear everybody, feel the footsteps. For all the fans, make it loud. Saturday night, it's a big time game.
Three-man rush against Daniels, and he threw it behind Neighbors. Daniels trouble finding anything.
It wasn't perfect, but they did enough.
The Auburn game. I know after that game, you guys had a players-only meeting. What was the message in that room?
Just trust. That's a big key word that we use around here is trust. You just got to trust that the receiver is going to be at the right spot. They got to trust that I'm going to put the ball in the right position so they're able to make that catch.
What was the challenge of getting to the place where you do trust yourself to just let it rip?
Me and Coach Kelly had a conversation about that. You got to go out there, you got to trust what you see, and as long as you're decisive, you can't be wrong. Ever since we had that conversation and I did that, you can just see the whole offensive unit just go out there having fun, making plays.
Jaden Daniels, touchdown. A 6-touchdown night for Jaden Daniels.
There's a confidence level that he knows the offense. He's got a relationship now that it's built on throwing the ball before receivers are open. More than anything else is when you build confidence in a quarterback, they become so much more assertive, and I think that we're seeing that in his development.
Another big game for number 5.
So you have a history with Bryce Young.
Yeah.
What is that history?
I played Bryce when we were younger, in Little League football, Pop Warner, beat his team a couple times.
I'm not gonna lie, we never were able to beat them. This is in elementary school. I used to play safety. The only person that's ever made me miss was Jaden.
Being both kids from Southern California, me, him, CJ Stroud, DJ at Clemson, we all played against each other when we were younger. It's going to be fun to go out there and, playing Bryce in Tiger Stadium on Saturday night.
Look out, he's going for the win right now. Daniels for the win. Caught! It's gone! LSU does it!
I wanted Coach to go for it, I just showed the trust he has in me. Game on the line, he knows I'm always step up.
So impressive what he's been able to do from his last stop to here at LSU. Knowing how many questions there were surrounding this LSU program, not only what Jaden Daniels, but Brian Kelly has been able to do. I think back to that Week 1 game against Florida State and the special teams blunders and the heartbreaking fashion in which that team lost that game. We were questioning how many players, if certain stars were checked in to this season, if they wanted to be there. And now here they are in the driver's seat of the SEC West, with a quarterback who leads SEC QBs in rushing and is just lights out in running that offense. If I'm an LSU fan, man, I am feeling so much better than I did 6 months ago, wondering what the Brian Kelly era was going to look like.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, after the FSU game, we were talking about how players took down their Instagrams, and we weren't sure what that meant and if they were just blocking out the noise, if they were going to be a part of the team anymore. And I think I have specific memories of listening to broadcasts and analysts talk about how Brian Kelly wanted Jaden Daniels to take more risks. They were like, that he wants him to play a little riskier and play with more confidence. And it's like he instilled that confidence in Jaden Daniels. And then he backed it up, giving Jaden Daniels an opportunity to win the game against Alabama. Like, that's how you do it. You challenge your quarterback, you push your quarterback, but then you show that you trust them. And I think you said it, it's a nod to Jaden Daniels, but also to Brian Kelly, because he did it the right way.
And how about the future of LSU recruiting based off of the video that was circulating of what Brian Kelly said to the locker room after the football game? He basically said, I was going to put this game in y'all's hands. I wanted to give you the opportunity to seal your fate and make the decision on how this was going to go, because I trust you and there's no one else that I'd rather go to battle with. I got chills watching that. I got chills. And we're hundreds of miles away from the state of Louisiana. Didn't go there. Not a fan of the program, outside of covering it, obviously. But I wanted to run through a brick wall.
And just to keep the train going, Rocket Sanders and Quinshon Judkins were not selected to preseason All-SEC team. Again, I understand Quinshon Judkins. No one knew that he was going to absolutely explode on the scene in the SEC. But Rocket Sanders? Nobody picked him?
And maybe the most glaring preseason prediction of them all, Texas A&M was picked to finish second in the SEC West. LSU projected to finish fifth. None of that is the case. As you take a look here at the 2022 preseason media poll and current chances now to win the SEC, of course, Alabama was predicted to be that number one team in the West. Now it's just a 3% chance of winning the SEC. Look at LSU, though, in that 5 preseason spot at 17%. And of course, well, the SEC East, we kind of knew.
Some notable teams who have their work cut out for them before it's over, and TCU is right there. The most difficult remaining schedule left, but they could secure a spot in the top 4 if they win out. They're there now. They'll try and stay. Michigan, meanwhile, the only team in the top 10 that has to play 2 college football playoff top 25 teams in its final 3 games.
Tennessee, what about it? How about them balls? Could LSU make the playoff? They are number 7. LSU, it's simple. Just win out, and they're in. They have to win at Arkansas, at A&M, and then beat Georgia. If they can do all that, they will be in the college football playoff.
Hard to believe it's week 11, but here we go. After a huge win against Alabama, LSU can clinch the SEC West with a win over Arkansas and an Ole Miss loss to the Crimson Tide. Brian Kelly would be the 3rd SEC coach to win that division in his first season. A lot on the line for LSU. The Tigers clinched the SEC West with a win, but they will also need an Ole Miss loss, meaning Alabama has to win. Brian Kelly would be the 3rd coach in the last 30 years to win the SEC West in his first season. The other 2, Gus Malzahn and Les Miles. And Sam, it goes without saying that LSU has played better as of late, but sometimes we forget to explain why. What have they done to be effective?
They got Jaden Daniels out of the transfer portal and put him at quarterback. That's what they did. Jaden Daniels is the only FBS quarterback with over 600 rushing yards and 1,700 passing yards. His rushing total is 8th for all players in the SEC. He's the 8th leading rusher in the entire SEC. And don't even take my word for it. Go and watch the last play in overtime that essentially won the game. The 25-yard run and then the pass. Jaden Daniels has been putting the team on his back, and he's gotten more and more confident. That Ole Miss game we were talking about. LSU was down 17-3 in the second quarter against Ole Miss. They went on a 42-3 run, mainly because of Jaden Daniels. He had either 5 or 6 total touchdowns in that game. And so you talk about what did Brian Kelly do or what happened? No. They went and got Jaden Daniels from ASU, and he's been all the difference.
We are welcoming in David Basil, a good friend from Arkansas. And Baz, it's been a while. So I think I came around. I saw you a couple weeks ago at a game. It escapes me where, but I'm glad you're on the show. How are you?
Doing great, Paul. How are you doing, buddy? I feel like I'm out of touch, or I'm not a modern guy. You know, all these guys come in with their little white things out of their ears. Man, I'm just not up to date. I just got to holler into my computer. I'm sorry, I'm not cool enough to have all that stuff.
I have your address. I will send you a pair for Christmas. David, I'm so intrigued by the Razorbacks, as I know you are, because we thought they were going to have a great season, and they lose on the Boeing, and then they lose to Liberty. Before we get to LSU, give us a description of where this program is right now.
Yeah, Paul, you go back to that fumble. Arkansas was dominating Texas A&M. I mean, just whipping them in the first half. I think they were getting ready to go up 21-0 in the first half. KJ Jefferson fumbles at the 1. A&M brings it back, recovers it, runs it back 99 yards, and seems like the season has been sort of off kilter ever since. And then you get 2 big road wins against BYU and Auburn. First time that's been done, I think, 7 years at Arkansas. And then last week, Paul, was just a head scratcher to everybody. For a while, Paul, being in that stadium, I think people were looking around saying, "Is this a Chad Morris coach team?" Had no juice. Liberty came out, kicked us in the teeth. No response whatsoever. Very disappointing loss. Obviously, Sam Pittman acknowledges he has not had a loss like that since he's been here in 3 years. But Liberty came in. They wanted it more. They kicked us physically. It's a big embarrassment. It's an embarrassment, I'm sure, and Sam agrees with it. The players do. And the great thing about it, Paul, that's the great thing about college football, is that LSU comes along at the right time. Because I'm going to tell you what, as a former player, after getting embarrassed like that, give me LSU. Give me a chance to redeem myself against a quality team, because that was an embarrassing loss last week.
I'll play stupid and act like I've never seen football before, but how does a Sam Pittman coach team get out physicaled by Liberty?
Yeah, that's a tremendous question, and I think it was one of those ones that I think even surprised Sam Pittman. I don't think he had a lot of answers. One of the things he said, Paul, KJ Jefferson is obviously dealing with an injury here, and it was apparent really quick that this is not the typical KJ. Something's not right. And then I guess that either trickled down somehow. You've got some of the other team leaders like Bumper Pools playing with injuries. and there was just no energy. There was no fire. There was no want to. And it was shocking. It was really shocking. I think everybody was stunned. Even if you don't know anything about football, Paul, you're watching and going, what are we watching here? So it was a shock. We haven't seen this kind of play in 3 years under Sam Pittman. And that's why I will be shocked if they don't come out and play a lot better on Saturday.
So what? I mean, I know bowl eligibility and things like that just don't seem to be the right description of where Arkansas's program ought to be. But as you look at this game, other than the revenge desire to get out there and beat a good team, and then they would be beating a good team, give us the key to this game for Arkansas, because a lot lies in the balance for everybody right now, considering LSU inside track.
Yeah, a lot at stake here. I think it's interesting. I don't know all the gambling and how that all works, Paul, but somehow they have a deal with the devil to where the line is only 3, Paul. The line is only 3 or 3.5. How in the world can that be? I mean, we just saw, I've heard all week, Brian Kelly, the greatest coach ever. Barry Bryan and Rockney and Bowden all combined together. You saw that great call at the end. Arkansas has no chance to beat LSU. I don't know, but the line's only 3.5, Paul. This series between LSU and Arkansas has been a good one over the years. LSU fans know that Arkansas usually brings it. You go back to 2014, playing number 1 LSU in Baton Rouge. Nobody gave Arkansas a chance. Triple overtime, you beat LSU. So it's going to be 25 degrees. It's going to be really nasty. And so that's what, if you want, if you're a Razorback fan or a player, you want those kind of conditions. But you're right, Paul, so much on the line. You talk about bowl. Sam Pittman's talked about bowl eligibility. I think most Razorback fans said, quit talking about bowl eligibility at this point. Nobody cares. Let's go out there and play like fighting Razorbacks and the kind of image that Sam Pittman has. And let's get no kind talk. Let's show what kind of pride you have. And I think that's what we're going to see Saturday.
Is there anything to read into this season right now about Pittman's arc? Because so much was said about him. We all fell in line. It's hard not to like this guy. You know the narrative. But what should we read into the season before we get to Saturday?
Yeah, I think that's fair to ask that question. I think he's still he's beloved in this state. He believes in this culture. Obviously he has a culture of doing things, and he's a good fit. And but as you know, Paul, you got to win. And so I think that was even a blow to him, what happened. So I think it was time for reevaluation. Arkansas is not the most talented team, but you have not seen in 3 years a team that has not given the kind of effort that we saw Saturday, or that had the mental, the right mental attitude. So we'll see. I think it's right. I mean, you look at it. You got LSU this week. You got Ole Miss at home, and then you got Missouri on the road. So it could really make a big difference, Paul, what direction this program takes. You bounce back and you somehow get this win Saturday, and maybe you get 2 out of 3 these last ones, and you save this season. If you don't, it can fall off. I still think Razorback fans believe in Sam Pittman. I do too. But let me tell you, I'm the honorary team captain, Paul, and I'm going out there with a coin toss, and I may just start talking trash, put me on a helmet myself, and let's go. Because if you don't get fired up for LSU in this game after what happened last week and what's on the line, and everybody talking about how LSU is the greatest team on the planet, then you're not a football player.
Well, you mentioned the weather. I remember being there, 3 years ago, I think, and there was 17 degrees on Saturday morning. It might be the coldest I've ever been, even though I've been in 25 below. Baz, always great to see you. It's been fun seeing you throughout the year, and I'm going to call Pittman tonight and see if he can sneak you into the lineup for the opening series.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you very much, David Basil.
Intriguing matchups, Arkansas and LSU, South Carolina and Florida. Which one of those 2 games are a little bit more intriguing to you?
To me, it's Arkansas and LSU. And I think sometimes, you talk about how you handle adversity, but I believe it's more difficult in some cases how you handle success.
Okay.
And this is a team that has completely changed their trajectory over the last month since losing to Tennessee. Now are virtual locks to find their way to Atlanta for the SEC championship game. game. There's a lot on the line, given the college football playoff rankings this week, having the Tigers at number 7. But you could easily go to Fayetteville, stub your toe against a wounded team that was embarrassed last week by Liberty, and now, all of those things that you're excited about and the momentum you created is kind of out the window. So I want to see how Brian Kelly's team is able to handle this success and this attention that they got after beating Alabama by going on the road and backing it up with another good performance.
It's just nasty too, right? 38 degrees early in the morning. I think the kickoff is going to be around 42 degrees. Yeah. So that's just, I remember like in 2014, LSU Arkansas played, and it was a night game. It was dark. It was gloomy, kind of rainy, and Arkansas just ran LSU off the field. Now the stakes are a little bit different this year, but I thought Brian Kelly did a fantastic job getting the team ready against Alabama. I'm very curious to see, like you said, how does he keep them even keel on the road in an 11 a.m. kickoff? This might tell me more about what Brian Kelly's leadership is to LSU, about how he can kind of be like, all right, this is a game we should win on paper. Let's go out there and take care of business.
This game sneaks up on them, though. I just think there's a lot, and a lot of people have been talking about it this week as a potential pitfall for LSU. I don't think it sneaks up on them. I do think that they get the full attention to Arkansas this week, and they don't get caught up in what happened last week. Now, that doesn't mean Arkansas can't win the game, but I don't think it'll be, if Arkansas wins, it's not going to be because LSU overlooks the Razorbacks.
Also, take a look, too, about we may see a lot more Malik Hornsby. KJ Jefferson, questionable for that game. I think that plays a monster role.
The great part about it is that there will be a similar game plan whether KJ plays or whether Hornsby plays, because both are very mobile, both are involved in the run game. And LSU last week did a great job of utilizing the freshman Harold Perkins in that spy role, where they limited Bryce Young's ability to run the football, to scramble, to force additional pressure on the defense with the ability to break contain. So I do think that you'll see a lot of that same usage of number 40 as we saw last week.
There's another big game we haven't spent much time on, but we're about to change that. LSU needs a win in one of its last 2 SEC games to make the trip to Atlanta. It's going to be cold tomorrow. That's why we've got Joe Tessitore here. He knows all about bad weather. Joe, great to have you back on the show. We've missed you. I don't know where you've been, but we're glad we could snare you on this.
I've been in other conferences, Paul. That is the problem. But I am back home now this week in the SEC. It's good to be back with you. It is so cold, Paul. A few years ago, I moved to South Florida, near Chris Fowler, just across Alligator Alley. I am so soft now. The upstate New York guy, the guy who lived in New York for all those years and then Connecticut. I get off the plane here in Arkansas. It's about 35 degrees, and I'm curled up in the fetal position. It is going to be cold for an 11 a.m. kickoff tomorrow, Paul.
I'm glad, because we were there about 3 years ago, and we did a show. It was 17 degrees. I don't know if I've ever been colder, and I spent weeks on Lake Michigan in the wintertime when it got to be 25 below. But I feel for you. I mean, you should be hardened to all this, but that life in South Florida, we could only the rest of us schmoes can only dream about. Let's get to the game. What are you learning as you dig deep, and you do dig deep as you get ready for a broadcast?
We had the chance to visit with both coaching staffs extensively. We just wrapped up meetings with Sam Pittman and Barry Odom and Kendall Briles, and had a very lengthy visit with Brian Kelly this week. And the one thing I would say is, anytime you get a situation like this with LSU coming off an all-time signature win that happened in a classic, thrilling way, you tend to have a week where everybody is talking about what just happened, is discussing the rear view mirror, is concentrating on still celebrating and living in the afterglow. What I have found with LSU this week, and this isn't one-on-one conversations and the privacy of the coaches' meetings, is a team that seems like this is not going to be a trap, that this is going to be taken with the right perspective, because they're going about their business step by step, of just concentrating on focus, on purpose, on taking it step by step. And I do not think this is going to be a team where you're saying they're still in the afterglow of last week, Paul.
You spent a lot of time in Vegas, but it just seems like, I don't know the Sharpies like you do, but I've heard from a few, and they're all, you think they're just being predictable and pointing to this game in that regard, in the trap game mode? I mean, it sets up as a trap game.
Into this conversation. I'm going to avoid this conversation because I have such a strong opinion about the possibilities of this game and the reality of it compared to that point spread. I think you understand what I'm saying there, but I think this is going to be quite a challenge for Arkansas. Now, this is an Arkansas team that has pockets of elite talent. Obviously, the season Drew Sanders is having as a pass rusher, but I think this is a team also that, especially in the defensive backfield, has been struggling all year to have cohesiveness, to have all the players they want on the field. That happens again this week with a suspension with Miles Slusher, who, if you talked to Sam Pittman and Barry Odom just a month ago, they would tell you he's so critically important to what they're trying to accomplish in the back end. I think Barry Odom would tell you, the defensive coordinator, that they have an extremely slim margin of error. And obviously, they've been dealing with the issue with KJ Jefferson of being banged up with the bruised clavicle, where he's in extreme pain anytime he throws. So who knows, are we going to see Malik Hornsby? How are we going to see of KJ Jefferson? And then you have a team that is coming off of what they came off of, the other side of things with the loss to Liberty. So I think it's quite a challenge for Arkansas. They are talented enough to win the game. I'm not saying that, but these are two teams in completely different directions right now, and one that's dealing with injuries and some situations that creates adversity.
I'm really glad you told me that, because I have bought into that narrative because that's what we tend to do. But you have given substantive, comprehensive reasons not that you're predicting the game. You're describing what you know, and it's very valuable. So I'll close on the weather, and it's cliche to talk about it, but can it affect, or does it really matter when you're talking about young guys who are from all over the country playing in that type of weather? It's not that bad. I mean, it's cold.
I don't think, listen, it's going to be a dry, sunny, cold day. You're not talking about that, precipitation that just zaps you and drains you and makes it for a miserable experience. So I think if you're Arkansas, you want to get off to a fast start. But if LSU plays the way they've been playing, and the way they have been playing since, what really happened, Paul, is, we were with them the week of that Florida game after the Tennessee game, and our crew was down there in the swamp when Jaden Daniels went nuts and just looked like a different quarterback, and he hasn't stopped since. They had that second players-only meeting. And that second players-only meeting of the season, the first one they had, was a moment when Jaden Daniels wanted to get with his wide receivers and say, guys, we need to be better than this, and I need to be better. We need to evolve as a more dangerous offense because we have all the weaponry to do so. The second players-only meeting was coming off the Tennessee game when they said, completely inexcusable. We're too good for this. We have to hold ourselves accountable, and we have to go out there with purpose every single moment and show, and you'll hear this from Brian Kelly all the time, of showing the traits of consistency. And that's what you have seen. And you have seen a team now that has not stopped growing and evolving and gets better, not just down by down, play by play, series by series, but you see legitimate growth of they are substantially a better team, almost as a multiplier, week by week by week. And you gain confidence because there's a solid foundation as to why that's happening. You're doing it by being accountable, by showing up the right way, and by believing with that confidence through yourself. The players made that decision. The coaches put forth the traits. They said, this is the level and the standard we expect. And now the players are holding themselves to that standard, Paul. And it's a very different culture to this program, and you're seeing the results because of it.
LSU coming off of its biggest win since the 2019 season, that one over Alabama, going to Arkansas. We talked to Tessitore earlier. Cold there. Arkansas coming off a bad performance. What happens?
This
is a tricky game, right? I mean, I think a lot of people are talking about it being a potential pitfall, but I think that's exactly the reason why it doesn't trip up LSU. They're not going to get caught sleeping. I've had enough of a sample size over the last couple of weeks to believe in this improvement of LSU's offense, to believe in Jaden Daniels. And I think Matt House, the defensive coordinator for LSU, is one of the best, most underrated coordinators in the country. What he's been able to do with a lot of versatile athletic pieces has been pretty amazing, including that game plan last week. They were able to get pressure time and time again against Bryce Young without ever having to bring more than really 4 rushers to do so. I thought they utilized Harold Perkins Jr. in a fabulous way in that spy role, keeping the running opportunities for Bryce Young limited. I think they'll use a lot of that this week. Who knows whether or not it's going to be KJ Jefferson or Malik Hornsby, but I think either way, you'll see some of the Harold Perkins Jr. in that spy spot again to limit some of the quarterback scrambles. I think that this is a game that Jaden Daniels, who's done a tremendous job of protecting the football, hasn't turned it over the last couple weeks, is able to take advantage of, again, a porous secondary for Arkansas that has given a lot of passing yards up this season.
Over in Fayetteville, it's going to be a cold one. Kickoff might not even reach 40 degrees. Now, Arkansas looking to cool down the red-hot LSU Tigers that won 5 of the last 6 meetings against the Hogs. Katie George is down there before it gets too cold on how the Tigers go from being the hunter to the hunted.
Well, LSU finds itself in new territory. Brian Kelly said his team now has a target on its back. The question is, how do they handle it? He said earlier in the week, it's harder to hit a bullseye when it's moving forward as compared to when it's standing still. Simply put, we have to continue to move forward and remain consistent in our processes. He reminded his guys, the minute people taste success, they usually go away from the habits and the processes that got them there in the first place. That can't be us. He feels like his team has moved past the Alabama win. They are locked in and focused, ready to come on the road for what will be a very chilly afternoon in Fayetteville, Arkansas.
Now, Brian Kelly's used to those chilly days back in Notre Dame. LSU Bayou Bengals, I'm not sure if they are. LSU controls their own fate, which is crazy to say in the West. How have they been getting it done?
Well, they've been doing a lot of different things. We've talked about the offense, Jaden Daniels, but the thing that I think maybe most under the radar nationally is the job Matt House has done defensively. He has coordinated some masterpieces, going back to what he did against Mississippi State, taking the running back away, making Will Rogers hold the ball a little longer. A couple weeks ago, the adjustments, as you talked about a lot with Harold Perkins and B.J. Ojulari on the field together. But last week, I thought it was absolutely perfect the way he did 2 things. They got pressure without blitzing. They were only had to blitz, bring more than 4 rushers, 7 of 53 dropbacks, but got a ton of pressure on Bryce Young the entire evening with some exotic looks that they gave. And then also using Harold Perkins Jr. in that spy role. I think they'll actually use a lot of that this week as well, because a similar situation with a mobile quarterback, whether it's KJ Jefferson or Malik Hornsby, you got to keep those guys from running the ball. I think you'll see Harold Perkins Jr. in that spy spot again.
Yeah, and that's a great point that you brought up, because when you look at what they do across the board, especially in the secondary, everybody is on the same page. It's almost like they're listening to heavy metal and then they're going out with such aggressive play, especially in the secondary. And when you look at the secondary, look at both of the corners. CD, they're running the route for the receivers. And this is not just by accident. This is preparation. This is what Matt House does. And when you look at Jared Bernard-Converse right there, he's in the hip pocket, doesn't give up on the play. Defensive line forces a bad throw. And now, 3rd and 15, 3rd and 12, and now they're playing a cover 2 sink. And when you look at the corner, Mekhi Gardner, he knows I don't care about what's going on up front, because I know my inside linebacker is going to come and push to that sideline. And oh, by the way, the running back was running a route out of bounds. And so when you talk about what Matt House is doing for this defensive unit, these guys are playing on the same accord, and they're playing reckless, abandoned football, and it's contagious.
Gold medal for that little breakdown right there. All right, when you start looking at what you kind of briefly touched on, we might see Malik Hornsby in this game. Sam Pittman is going to be questionable if KJ Jefferson plays in this one. How much does that matter to this matchup?
I think, all honestly, it hurt last week. KJ Jefferson clearly wasn't healthy. He didn't look like himself at all. They found themselves in a 21-0 deficit. So the coaches have to make a legitimate judgment. Like, KJ wants to play, but if he's not going to be able to do the things you need him to do, or he's going to put the team in a bad position, Hornsby has shown himself to be a guy that can at least make some plays with his legs and has the ability
ability to throw the football down the field.
And yeah, in Arkansas last week, the first half, it was surprising to see they didn't even get up to past the 45-yard line in the first half. And you look at what they did the second half, they came back and not only had 2 late drives that ended in scores. So to your point, they got to get started early. So for me, I would like to think if KJ was able to do that finishing the second half, he should be able to do it at the beginning of this game.
Yeah, I think one of the things, too, that you look at, if KJ's not healthy, you're going to put him behind that offensive line that gave up 14 tackles for loss last week against Liberty. Like, that to me is a concerning factor. You got to look out for the health of your player. But I think right now, it's Sam Pittman going to that offensive line. Regardless of who's back there, we've got to protect better. We've got to block better. That run game couldn't get going because there was too much penetration. It was embarrassing.
I talked to some of our friends in Fayetteville, and don't lose fact that they got out-physicaled by Liberty, and that stung. That doesn't sit well with Sam Pittman. That's going to be something that they'll be bringing up over in Fayetteville for that early kickoff.
And this week's edition of How Do You Handle Success? It features LSU after a huge win a week ago against Alabama in overtime. Jaden Daniels to Mason Taylor for the 2-point conversion. Now they have to travel, though, after an epic scene after the game on their way to Fayetteville. Early kick, KJ Jefferson. Guys, when he's good, he's great. This is going to be a really good test for LSU.
Phil, you have all the ingredients for a trap game, all the ingredients for an upset. LSU coming off a monster win against Alabama. You think it's cold here? It's going to be cold in Fayetteville. An 11 a.m. kick, 30-something degrees. It's going to be a dogfight. But they told me it feels like 27. Exactly.
Missed that. And we've got you covered with reporters spanning the SEC. We begin in a very cold Fayetteville, Arkansas with Katie George.
Well, Laura, LSU's in new territory. Brian Kelly says his team has a target on its back. The question is, how do they handle it? He told his team earlier this week, it's a lot harder to hit a bullseye when it's moving forward as compared to when it's standing still. Simply put, the Alabama win was great, but we have to continue to move forward. We have to remain consistent in our processes, which has gotten us to this point.
Wow, look at that. Hey, look what's happening at Razorback Stadium. They were both at Cal for.
Break out the Zamboni. Let's go.
Yeah, they some really,
don't
really
take that
cold
snow off
morning.
the field.
That looks good.
Kurt, when you're in the South Arkansas, where you see Sam Pittman coming out there. Now, listen, you don't see snow on the ground right there necessarily, although he looked like he was trying to make sure it wasn't icy.
That last step wasn't very comfortable.
Wow.
We didn't know, is this thing going to be slippery or what?
An hour and 42 minutes to kick off. It is very chilly, and you see them clearing the snow off the field. Katie George is there. Katie, I hope you're warm, but tell us a little bit about the conditions as we get ready for this one.
Yeah, it's interesting, Laura. Sam Pittman was praying for cold weather. I don't think he anticipated waking up to his home field being covered in snow and ice this morning. It was a wild scene. It's definitely cold. Now that the sun's come over the stadium, we should see some of this ice start to melt. But the grounds crew actually sprayed water across the field with the idea that it would melt the ice, but they said there was just too much snow. So now they've resorted to shovels and snow blowers. And Jaden Daniels, a Southern California kid, just came out from the LSU tunnel. He is bundled up. Think about it. He used to play at Arizona State. He came to the Bayou for some warm weather. He was not anticipating this kind of weather.
Katie, excellent work out there. I think the weather really factors into this game. We're going to be talking about it later on. You try to stay as warm as possible, but I'm not so sure about spraying ice.
Wait a second.
I mean, water on the field.
It's icy.
What are they thinking?
And it's also wet right now.
Let's spray water. It won't freeze.
Oh, Lord. All right. Enjoy it, Katie. Also, Joe Tess and Greg McElroy, who were on the call for that game, we're joining SEC Nation in just a little bit. Those Southern Cali guys, they don't know how to deal with the snow, the cold. Yeah.
Miserable.
Yeah.
Tough losses this year, but another good, solid season for Stoops Wildcats. And Arkansas and LSU, DoorDash Game Day Preps. Sam Pittman and the Hogs trying to pull the upset, looking for back-to-back wins over LSU in this meeting for the Golden Boot. We showed you earlier them removing snow from the field in Fayetteville. LSU bringing out heaters to try to keep warm. Oh, look at that. That's Razorback Stadium.
Wow.
That's an Arkansas.
Look at this
down there, huh?
Oh, man, I
Bayou Bengals. Come on, baby, let's go. That thing's dripping like Bevo's nose.
It is. That's a good one for you.
That's pretty good for you. There's a road to Atlanta, the simplest SEC West clinching scenarios. LSU is in control. They win, they go. Now, Ole Miss, if they can find an LSU loss along the way and win their games, then they could end up in Atlanta for the first time. Alabama is the longest shot. Now, the SEC West could be won today with an LSU win and an Ole Miss loss, but Lane Kiffin's dog hopes not. I mean, Juice, like his dad, quick wit, little bite, and a campus legend.
And the huge game happening with LSU and Arkansas as they go to Fayetteville, the Tigers do. They're coming off an enormous win that we were just reminded of over Alabama. Let's welcome in Joe Tessitore and Greg McElroy. Hey, guys, they're on the call for this game. Can't wait to see you guys in action. Let's begin with you, Tess, and I'm sure you'll toss it over there to your boy, Greg. But what have the meetings been like this week, and what more can you tell us about what we should know heading into this one?
You know, Laura, I think it's a great question because I think that's the big question for LSU specifically, because this is the kind of week where typically you come off a signature win, Greg, you get that big dramatic thrower against Alabama, and every conversation's in the rear view mirror. Everything is about what just happened. Yeah. That is not the feeling we have. When we spoke with Brian Kelly and the coaching staff, it was about being very intentional for this week's step-by-step.
Yeah, and obviously needing some sleep after what was probably a late night on Saturday night down in Baton Rouge. I think it's been huge for the maturation of this team, Laura. I mean, when we've been with this team every step of the way, this is our fifth LSU game, so we've kind of seen 5.
Are we getting a state pension in Louisiana? What's going on?
I'd be open to that. Okay. We are the unofficial voice of the LSU Tigers. But I will say this: thank you. We've kind of seen them grow, and we've caught them kind of every other week for the first 4 weeks, and now if you look at where they're sitting right now, and they're playing their best football, and it's really because of the quarterback and because of how he's grown within the offense and the young players on defense like Harold Perkins. He's become a game changer throughout the course of the season as well.
Yeah, Roman, you really believe in this LSU team right now. Why is that?
Because tough, smart football teams travel in any weather, in any degree, and everywhere they play. That is why I like this LSU team. They don't beat themselves, and they're playing with a sense of swagger and confidence that can't be matched. And as you guys have seen this team grow over 5 games, can you tell me the maturation process of how they look, what their mindset is, and tell me about the swag that has grown on this LSU team?
All I could hear there at the beginning of the answer from Roman was the Birdman, flying any weather, right? But it really has. It really has, Roman. They've grown so much, and I think their leadership has grown as well, too. I think at the first early going, Brian Kelly, admittedly, he told us, we're kind of ahead of schedule, but we don't really know each other, and we're trying to establish this trust with the players and let the players trust us, and then them trust each other and trust the process and all these other things. So I think we've kind of seen the relationship grow a little bit too, Ted.
Yeah, and I think it comes down Roman and Jaden Daniels. And I think what happened is after the Tennessee game, they had their second players-only meeting. But this was the whole team, and it was everybody getting together and saying, listen, we're going to live to a higher standard right now. We have to hold ourselves accountable. And really what the coaching staff has been preaching since the summer is how to go about your business in a foundational way so that, yes, there's going to be good days, there's going to be bad days, but it doesn't matter. You're going to be more consistent. I think that's something culturally that was lacking in the program the past few years.
Very much. And I think, too, one other thing that this program's now changed, under Ed Ogeron and under Les Miles, his predecessor, they really put everything into the Alabama game. And you can kind of see just how they've played post-Alabama at times. And now Brian Kelly has kind of taken the approach to, hey, yeah, the Alabama game's great, but that's one data point. It's no more important than the game that we played against Southern in the second week of the season. So I think they've definitely adjusted their mentality to how they approach big games, and this one against Arkansas is just as big in their eyes as the game against Alabama was a week ago.
I think the development and the maturation of this team is evident, as you guys have pointed out, but I'm more curious, Tess, about the maturation of your partner going from possibly these little orange quarter zips and maybe getting a little more swaggy going with the Gucci full swaddle scarf you got going there.
Swaddle is a good word.
Yeah,
swaddle.
Such a money flex.
Such a money flex.
Tess
is full on swaddled.
The tag is still on this. He's returning this. And it's just purely, he's not even going to wear it in the game. He's wearing this purely for Nation. I think he bought it at Belk, which I believe is still a sponsor. He went to Regions, got some money, and then he went to Belk and bought a Gucci sweater. We've been burying him on this deal.
Well, Tess, did you tie it yourself? Like I do. I have trouble tying my scarf. I need to know.
That is good. Yeah.
But it is amazing how it always comes back to the money. You know, in his first comment, it was about 5 games. It's a pension plan. You know, now he's going to take back the scarf.
Timmy,
you know what? We need to work on his generosity a little bit, Greg.
Schenectady, New York, trying to get by, Timmy. Never forget that. Just a poor little Italian kid from Schenectady, New York, trying to get by.
Tess, how do you think the weather factors into this game? We saw Katie earlier. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, you can tell, Laura, Tess has totally embraced the Naples lifestyle. He's a Connecticut guy that has now moved to Naples. He's a snowbird, but now he's a permanent bird. So, you know, Tim. I mean, you're a Florida guy. I mean, look at this though. The weather is
very handsome, though. I will say that burnt orange is becoming on you.
I'm rooting. Clearly, I'm rooting for the Longhorns, as I've been referenced multiple times tonight. Look at the weather. Seriously, this is honestly a factor. We've seen LSU teams in settings like this struggle. I mean, there's ice on the ground. It's freezing. The Arkansas players are out here sleeveless. The LSU players are out here in full hoodies. You know, it's like they're kind of embracing this mentality, but I do think that that's a factor in the game, even though by the time kickoff rolls around, it won't be as much of a factor. Temperatures are expected to get up to about 50 or so, but here in the warm-ups, it can have a little bit of a psychological effect.
Well, I mean, it's had a psychological effect on me. I am super soft. Super soft.
Yeah, Tess, this Florida move for you has made you way softer than we ever expected. Thanks to you guys. Can't wait to see you on the call.
I hope the IRS knows. I hope the IRS knows.
Producer Michelle, I apologize for blabbermouth over here. That's all on him.
The IRS knows that you're getting
out of here.
Still going.
30 days.
Bye. Bye, guys.
He's getting paid by the word now.
I think Tess and Greg miss SEC Nation. We miss them too.
Take away the AT&T countdown to the College Football Playoff National Championship. What a night for young Mason Taylor. There is the game-winning 2-point conversion against Alabama, the son of the legendary Jason Taylor, nephew of Zach Thomas. There's Jason, who's on staff at Miami as an analyst, now getting the word of what his son did. Kirk saw it last week, and there is Mason Taylor. Now you'll be able to see him coming up just after the top of the hour as LSU goes in against Arkansas and try to take another step closer to the SEC championship game, Brian Kelly's first year.
His mom was there. It was incredible to see that. She was fired up. He was crying on her shoulder. It was a pretty cool moment.
Yeah, it was a remarkable thing. Here's the guys from Plantation, Florida, played at St. Thomas Aquinas. I mentioned the family connections. His mom was right there in the middle of it to celebrate with Mason. Just an explosion of emotion after he got that game-winning 2-point conversion, which, by the way, was on a pristine play design by that LSU offensive staff. Motion in the snap was right at the perfect time. Time now for Best in Game, brought to you by Old Dominion Freight Line. Jaden Daniels for LSU is really coming into his own. And KJ Jefferson, Desmond mentioned it early in the show, really strong season, but he's also battling a shoulder problem. Was certainly not at his best in that loss against Liberty last week. They'll need him to be at his best because LSU, they have shown some holes on defense from time to time. They've got Rocket Sanders in the backfield to go with Jefferson if he's healthy and able to go. But the biggest question is, how does LSU avoid the letdown?
That's weird. Liberty won that?
Here we go. They did. I'm sure you weren't glued to the comeback either.
Turns out Liberty beat Arkansas while LSU is beating Alabama.
Superdog last
Guys, this LSU, you think about the history going as far back as you want to go about LSU. We can talk about offense and Jaden Daniels, but it really, when they're going to get this thing going, it's about their defense. And today against Arkansas, their run defense is going to be big, and I think they're showing signs of getting better and better. You need an alpha. Micah Baskerville, who's really become the glue of this defense. Very instinctive guy. With Damone Clark moving on to the NFL, they needed a guy in the middle to be able to be the guy that can make plays. Today, 23 will have to make plays against the run. Here's my guy, true freshman Harold Perkins. He is doing it all, and he will be challenged today. But again, a guy that can be slippery, great vision, able to athletically get into the backfield. And again, the third down, he's going to come off the edge, and he'll spy from time to time. But he's really twitchy off the edge. You get a tackle out there isolated. He's a handful. What I love about this play is he plays like Pollock. Can't get there, goes down. Look at him. Never gives up on the play. He's got a motor for a true freshman. With Bryce Young back there, KJ Jefferson today, they'll spy him on third down. What I love about his technique on the spy is how he closes ground on the athletic Bryce Young. Instead of giving him a chance to have time, moves the feet, closes ground, does what he has to do. Keep an eye on 40 and 23. Be a tough game against the Sanders and KJ Jefferson, but they got the guys to do it.
And they've struggled against the run, but Perkins is a building block. That dude,
he sure is.
You plug him and you go, we're good for the next 3 years at linebacker. I think this is always going to go back to the maturity of the team.
Yes,
big win.
Totally.
Georgia's got a big example of it tonight. Big win, huge hopes. Everybody patting you on the back. Everybody telling you Brian Kelly's the greatest coach, perfect fit.
Hey, you're going to Atlanta. Great. All you have is Arkansas.
You might play for the CFP.
No problem.
Everything go in your direction.
And now you got to go to Fayetteville.
How do you handle this moment?
Totally
It's going to be fun to watch.
Well, no, it's been an up and down season for LSU. And this is the moment we see how mature they are as a group or as a team and how they're going to handle success. Huge win a week ago over Alabama, but at this point, you got to forget about that. You got to go out there and play a Arkansas team in Fayetteville where the temperatures look like they're a little frigid. And understand that this team would love to upset the apple cart, so to speak. So you got to forget what happened a week ago. You got to focus on Arkansas.
Yeah, to your point with the snow coming down on November.
Man. They should have left the snow on the field, too.
In Arkansas, if you're Arkansas, you should do that. But I think the thing that happens in the snow in any weather is the run game can travel. And Jaden Daniels has obviously grown, and he's electrifying. In the last 3 games, he has 7 touchdowns throwing, 7 touchdowns running. Arkansas's rush defense is like 80-plus in the country. Look for LSU to continue to pound it, and they've already lost twice. So if they're already getting, too many pats on their back and getting too excited, then they got no hope down there under Brian Kelly. I think they take care of business today in that snow. I like the LSU team a lot.
How about the fans fill up the field?
Yeah.
You've got guys crying on the field. Emotional, hearing about how great you are. And your reward is an 11 a.m. kick in the snow. I mean, if there's ever been a recipe for a letdown, it's today. Can LSU overcome
it? It almost seems so obvious, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I know this is becoming more commonplace in college football, but LSU has a couple of guys in their secondary, Joe Fouché and Greg Brooks, who were starters at Arkansas.
Yes, sir.
Last year. You're seeing more and more of that. One of these days, we're not going to be able to mention it because it's just going to be like everybody. With all the transfers.
Tight end for LSU has been dynamic. He caught the 2-point conversion to win in overtime against Alabama. Great call, great catch.
Not to mention the touchdown before that, too.
Good point, Timmy. He's been money. About 48 minutes away from kickoff there in KJ Jefferson with a big opportunity against LSU
Great stretch
today.
he was doing. He's kind of going through the motions there, Jordan.
He's just trying to get warm,
it's cold,
you know?
Tim. It's a slow warm-up. Slow build.
All right, so KJ's got on the sleeves in the cold. Look at Jaden Daniels. He just took it all off. He said,
that's what happens when you've been swagging, man.
Hey, keeping that neck warm, though. You see he's got the hoodie on.
Trying to be tough is not always smart in cold weather, guys.
Interested to see what Jaden Daniels brings to the table on the road after a huge win last week.
It's Baton Rouge to snow this morning.
It looks like it's beautiful.
They got it off.
Don't let the DoorDash game day preps just inside 21 minutes. There's Jaden Daniels. Wonder what the coldest weather
That's what I said,
was.
Tim.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, right.
I don't think it was cold. It was early in the season. Remember when he led them into Michigan State and kept scrambling for all the first downs? I remember that. You read it. Exactly. Michigan State that year. There's the guy, man.
That's a gam right
40.
there. Grown
40.
arse man.
40 against 1 would be a good matchup today.
And keep a close eye on KJ throwing the ball. They're calling it a bruised clavicle area, and it took him a while to really get it loose. We didn't practice much last week, a little bit more this week from what we understand.
Back in the entire FBS with 600-plus rushing yards, over 1,700 passing yards. Last 3 games, 2 top 11 opponents, all SEC, 14 total TDs, 0 turnovers. This dude can flat out ball, and he gets better every week.
I mean, if we're talking about just the last 3 weeks, ain't no doubt. His improvement has been special.
West get weird with Arkansas upsetting LSU.
I tell you what, I think this game is going to be a battle to the end, but LSU will find a way to come out victorious. I'm going Bayou Bengals.
There's been a lot of conversation today about LSU kind of folding after a massive win. A lot of people talking about Brian Kelly not being able to build a culture. I feel like on the field they've built a culture. You see they have an identity. I don't care if there's rain, snow, sun, wind. LSU is continuing to be a wagon all the way to the SEC championship.
I'll take the hit here. I got Arkansas.
You're a good man.
You're a good man. I'll take the hit. I'll take it. I'm going to risk it. I got a lot of good friends that went to Arkansas. They told me not to take Arkansas. I pick Arkansas for the upset.
Very nice.
Bear just gave me a late breaking news. KJ Jefferson out. Sorry about it. Sorry about that.
That might be okay, though. You got the healthy quarterback.
I really think that was.
You know what? It's
nothing I can do about breaking news.
I'm going LSU. I've really loved this team the last 3 weeks. There was a huge win last week. I think maturity is the biggest thing today. I think they'll show it.
100% as far as their personnel availability.
Arkansas won the toss. They elect to defer. Temperatures 36 degrees. And about an hour ago, we still had the remnants of snow and ice that they were getting off the field. So Jake Bates will kick off. Noah Kane back to receive. LSU can clinch a spot in the SEC championship game today. They get a win, and then Bama beats Ole Miss, and that would happen. 25-yard touchdown run, and then throwing the game-winning two-point conversion. Daniels on first down. You know what he can do with his legs as he is finally taken down by Drew Sanders.
He's never looked better in the last few weeks in his college career.
Daniels on first down. Offensive line doing a good job, but the coverage downfield was sensational.
It'll be really interesting to see how Arkansas and Barry Odom decide to play. Right there, you can see two guys there at the second level.
A gap pressure. They pick it up on 2nd and 11. Daniels can't get free, though, of that next wave.
Really made possible by this inside pressure. You can see Drew Sanders, number 42, really blowing up the left side of that offensive line. And you see the layered pressure as well coming around and dropping Jaden Daniels in the backfield yet again to set up a nice third. Doing what? Starting fast and playing with a little rhythm offensively.
Ball is intercepted right at the line of scrimmage by Brini.
And this is just a great job by Brini at the end of the line of scrimmage. Jaden Daniels has the RPO. He can either hand it off to Emery or throw it. When he sees those defenders come up, he thinks he's going to be able to throw a slant right in behind Brini, but Neighbors kind of stops his route.
With Jaden Daniels to pass. And good pressure again on him.
In this particular case, it's 10 bumper pool. Running in and just kind of disrupting the offensive line and the protection of Jaden Daniels. It's forcing the quarterback to move off of his spot, and the other Arkansas defenders are there to drop him. It's been a good start so far.
Daniels on 3rd and 12. Overthrows Keishawn Booty. Good field position to start this drive as Hornsby gets this complete to Hazelwood, and it's a first down for the Hogs. Hornsby, this is where he's dangerous. Arguably the fastest player on the team, and just glides his way to a Hogs first down.
Led him to 48 offensive points.
2nd and 7, Sanders going to be 3rd and short as Ojulari. Sanders gets to the edge past Perkins and has a first down. Now you take advantage of the good field position. And he puts the Hogs on the board.
Espresso perhaps on the
Perhaps. You go espresso and a little Nutella drip, and I'm all in on a cold day. Ball is loose, and the Hogs look to have it. Latavius Brini, who had the interception earlier, may have his 2nd turnover of the day. Jordan Dominic got out and forced that fumble.
And this is perfectly played by Jordan Dominic. By the end of the line of scrimmage, he runs right at the mesh. Kind of forces a little bit of indecision for Jaden Daniels. He opts to keep it, but doesn't ever really get it tucked away. As you can see, it's still kind of out, floating a little bit in his right arm, and Dominic gets a hand on it.
Losing just too much Crisco today. And Green inside the 5. Jay Ward was able to tackle him. 2nd and goal. Third and 4. They're going to run it straight up the middle with Goodwin, and he's going to be short.
He's going to be an unstoppable force.
2nd and 5. Tipped before it gets to the end zone to Keishawn Boutte. 3rd and 5. Daniels swarmed and thrown back. That was Eric Gregory.
And this is just a tremendous game around. Watch Gregory. Little penetration up front. It buys the right guard, Bradford, who slides down to get it. And then Gregory comes right around Bradford. and is basically unblocked en route to the quarterback. Just a really nice game in the front there by Arkansas's defensive line.
Hornsby with a blocker in front. Patiently waited for it just to get those extra 4 yards. Malik Hornsby. Daniels on first down. Spins back and is sacked yet again. That is now 6 sacks for Arkansas.
And this is all just right around the true freshman, Will Campbell. He's done a really nice job all year long, but just that long arm right into the chest of Campbell, who's just driven back.
On 2nd and 8. And Williams is met. Good job defensively by Arkansas. Daniels. He is met at the 7-yard line as Chris Paul and Hudson Clark converge on Jaden Daniels. Says the energy is not good on offense. 142 total yards and just 6 points. 6-3, number 7 LSU on top. Let's head to the halftime report with Matt, Joey, and Dan. Hornsby steps up in the pocket, able to escape. And you know when he does that, it's going to be good yardage for Arkansas. He got caught up in the traffic, did Baskerville, the linebacker. A.J. Green, good run now for the Hogs as he's out to midfield for another Arkansas first.
Perfect, that's what I want, double order.
Jaden Daniels on first down. Able to get past Drew Sanders. Williams can't find much there. 3rd and 7. Daniels had a man in his face and it's incomplete. He was looking for Neighbors, redshirt senior. And Fortin will complete his first pass of the afternoon to Hazelwood. Daniels. Somebody got a piece of it up front. Daniels taken down by Drew Sanders and company. And they're thinned out in that defensive backfield as well. 3rd and 12 as the comeback was overthrown. He was looking for Malik Neighbors, one of the breakout stars in all of college football, the true freshman. 3rd down and 2. Green patiently waited for the blocks and then was able to find room on that right side for an Arkansas first down. That was nice. Number 7 team in the country, the LSU Tigers, with a 10-point lead. If they win this game, and then if Alabama wins at Ole Miss, LSU is in the SEC championship. 3rd down and 17. Fortin. That ball is complete to Landers.
Wow, that ball is hung up in the air forever as Landers running the big dig. Looked like they definitely to step up and make a play, and we're back in this thing. That would be the message if I'm Sam Pittman.
That was the first play they had that went for over 20 yards. And now Fortin doing it with his feet. Of course, it's what happens when you go up against Jalen Carter wrecking everything. 2nd and 12. Look at this in stride. It's Landers again. As Cade Fortin stood in there tough and delivered.
And Harold Perkins coming off the edge and just delivering a strike. But Fortin hanging in there completely unfazed. Let's take a look. Does he go out of bounds? Doesn't look like it right there.
Watch his feet. Does he step out at any point here?
Difficult to tell right there. Here you go at right foot, left foot. Nothing there that would indicate to me that he's out of bounds.
Nope.
Yeah, I think
he stays in.
It's a pretty remarkable job there. The second level, they've been able to consistently create a lot of problems for Jaden Daniels in the pass rush.
Daniels on 2nd and 11, and the pressure gets to him. Chris Paul Jr. with the sack.
And it's been consistent all game long. They bring the pressure overload. And obviously Chris Paul just told you just how active those linebackers have been and how problematic it's been.
Daniels had no chance whatsoever. Sanders was tracking.
Move that will wear you down as the game goes along.
Daniels pulls it, and he is tripped up right at midfield by Dwight McGlothern.
You choose to take advantage of what looks like it might be man coverage.
Daniels on 2nd and 7. And that is incomplete.
Yeah, really nicely done here. As you can see, McAdoo kind of squatting but watching man coverage all the way. Does a good job of breaking on it. That ball's in the air for a long time and not one that Jenkins could come up with.
Keyshawn Boutte in motion. 3rd and 7. Daniels looks over to the left side. And that tackle by Jaden Johnson is going to have Keyshawn short of the line to gain. LSU trying to stamp this victory. Josh Williams is short of it. Simeon Blair with the tackle on 4th down. And Arkansas will take over.
You just see the crash on the end of the line of scrimmage. This would be one that Jaden Daniels really needs to pull. As you can see, the defender, Blair, crashing right on the running back. The quarterback there, pull the ball, and then you're one-on-one in the open field with the loss.
Came in as the quarterback for Malik Hornsby. And now Rocket Sanders trying to turn the corner, and he does successfully.
To need a little bit more time, I think you have to go full offense here. Throw it if they have to. If you leave a little extra time on the clock, who cares? I think picking up the first down is more important than thinking about the clock at this point of the game.
They're only 3 of 12 on 3rd down today. 3rd and 4, sprint right. Daniels look familiar. Jaray Jenkins, but look at where he is marked. And so let's see where they put this ball down. Remember, the yellow line is unofficial.
Looks like it's a pretty good spot.
It is a fairly generous spot, but we'll see where he reaches out to. Yellow line is unofficial. Jenkins forward progress. They're going to move the chains and give him the first down.
And Jenkins runs that route real short, and the off-target throw certainly didn't help matters either.
And keep in mind, the camera view you're looking at, the angle you're looking at, is not down the line. So it's an inexact science to say that you have the perfect evidence. Matt Austin, our longtime rules expert, what do you see?
Well, Joe, I agree with you and Greg, and you're right. You can't see, the view is not right down the line, and anytime you get this view, it's going to push the ball carrier back further. But if he needs to get to the line, you can see the runner is right between the 2 hash marks, and I never saw the ball come out to get to the line to gain, so I think he's short. But is that indisputable evidence to overturn it? Calling the field's a first down, I have a feeling it's going to stand.
Yeah, and sometimes, and Matt, I feel like it's very rare to see calls like this overturned, spot of the ball, especially when we're talking about a half yard at most. So I think it's very difficult, like you said, to create indisputable video evidence beyond all doubt to overturn. I think he's a little bit short, but I can't tell you without a shadow of a doubt where that football is at that point right there.
Dwight McGlothern was the cornerback who was a former teammate of Jaray Jenkins, the receiver for LSU. He transferred from LSU to Arkansas. 2:18 to play, and obviously if LSU gets the first down, they're in 4-minute offense, and they can try to put this game away. 3 timeouts with Arkansas remain. Arkansas gets the repositioning, and they got a chance to get the ball back and make some magic.
I I think he's short. I don't know about y'all. The more
to my eye, it felt short.
100%.
Live action.
Absolutely. Live action, it felt short. Everything about it felt short. And then the spot, of course, it seemed favorable, but it's really difficult to tell from the looks we have exactly where that ball was.
After video review, the ruling on the field that the runner made the line to gain stands. First down.
And I think that's one of those as it favors LSU with the first down. You see the reaction by Sam Pittman from Arkansas. I think that's one of those that Matt Austin, mentions, hey, but do you have that video evidence where you can say, undoubtedly, 1st and 15 after the penalty, and Bumper Pool slams down Noah Cain.
Downs this season.
So off the Arkansas timeout. Jaden Daniels will keep it, spins, but cannot get free of Hudson Clark. It's third down. That is what they're playing for each and every year. The battle for the golden boot. The 4-foot-tall, golden-shaped outline of the two states. Arkansas can get the stop and use the timeout. Cain still going. Cain nearly gets it on 3rd and 14. What does he have? Here's 4, 2nd down. Gets it complete as it goes to Hazelwood. 1st down, Arkansas. Fortin. He was hit as he was throwing, and it was Perkins again. Harold Perkins has been harassing Arkansas all day long. And are they saying that's a live ball?
The ruling on the field is a fumble recovered by the defense.
They are saying that's a fumble recovered by LSU. The field is that this is not a forward pass, that it's a fumble. Was the ball out of his hand? Harold Perkins right on top of Cade Fortin. You be the judge.
It looks like it to me. Remember, the time that we just saw a second ago that was ruled incomplete, that ball was in the hand all the way through. Right here, the ball comes loose as Fortin is bringing it back, not moving it forward.
A fumble recovered by the defense. The previous play is on a video review.
All right, let's bring in longtime SEC referee Matt Austin. Matt, what do you see?
Well, I agree with Greg. This is just the opposite. The hand gets hit before the ball comes forward. He loses control. Then the hand comes. I think this is a fumble. This is a good call.
I agree.
Watch the ball. It's out. And then only does his forearm act as a catapult of sorts to make the ball go forward, looking like an incomplete pass.
I mean, and that's just sticking your hand out and just trying to swipe at it as you go by. But I think this call is going to be confirmed. And Harold Perkins, we told you just a second ago, this is where you close games. This is why edge rushers in the NFL get paid $20+ million a year to win games. It's exactly what Harold Perkins did right there.
Review, the ruling on the field as a fumble is confirmed. LSU will have the ball 1st and 10.
Harold Perkins, the true freshman sensation, just closed out this game on a day where you cannot possibly play better than he did. Greg, 8 tackles, 6 of them solo, 4 sacks. 4 sacks, tying the single-game LSU record, and that play to end it.
And remember, he had a sack taken off the board that resulted in a fumble that would have ended it 5, 6, 7 minutes ago.
That's right.
Even the numbers, as impressive as they are.
So because of Ole Miss losing, Georgia's in representing the SEC East. The battle for the Golden Boot Trophy between LSU and Arkansas would decide. It ended up deciding the SEC West. They didn't know it at the time because Ole Miss is yet to play. But KJ Jefferson not in. Malik Hornsby. Keep your eye on Harold Perkins Jr. for LSU.
You think Hornsby's seen a linebacker run that fast? I mean, here's a young quarterback. He's the backup quarterback. Gets in the game. He's fast. He's athletic. not as fast as Perkins.
6-3 at the half. This didn't have any offense in the first half. Here, Jaden Daniels and Keyshawn Booty. Red zone opportunity for LSU.
Great pass, and they struggled all day. They confused Jaden Daniels, but he made a couple of big throws when they needed
But
them
the
to.
defense did enough, and here Josh Williams takes it in. LSU 13-3 lead. It was a hard-fought game. It was cold. It was icy. LSU coming off the big win against Alabama. They put in Cade Fortin, better thrower. Matt Landers down to strike 40
Jefferson's
yards.
out, Hornsby's out, down to their third quarterback, and now they're back in this game within 3. Great throw down the sideline.
Coach, I want you to tell everybody what you told us about Perkins' tape coming out of high school.
Unbelievable. He was one of the best linebackers I've seen coming out of high school. A dominating playmaker. The speed, the power, he hits you. Had 4 sacks today.
Here's Brian Kelly. LSU escapes.
I'm not sitting here disappointed. I am excited that we won the football game in a very difficult environment where a team was coming off, and our guys knew that. We're in a different realm now. We're being hunted, and we're going to get everybody's best shot, and they understand that. So we got some things to work on, and we'll enjoy this victory, and we'll come back prepared for UAB in senior night.
Battle for the boot. That thing weighs 200 pounds. I weigh 194.
Who thought it was a good idea to throw water on a frozen field?
Listen, and try to slow him down, right?
I guess.
It was
Patriot stuff right there.
Yeah. It was rough going, right? Last 3 games for Jaden Daniels, 14 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. That changed quickly. Laters, Tiger in their own territory. Daniels looking to run. Oh no, another one.
We remarked about how well he'd protected the football in the last couple ball games. Today, 2 quick turnovers put his defense in some tough situations.
What do you make of this play right here? Up 3-0, they decide to go on 4th and goal and not kick the 3, gentlemen.
That wasn't a good decision.
That might drop in there, guys.
But, it's not still pondering over. But what we did see was this young man. I know we're going to talk about him ad nauseum today, but Harold Perkins Jr., what a day. What a season he's been having. 2 forced fumbles today, and he was all over the place, wreaking havoc.
You'll see a lot more from number 40 going forward. Headed into the 3rd. Hogs going forward on 4th down. Again, Hornsby rolls right, loses his footing, and that would be it for Malik Hornsby. Cade Fortin will be warming up, the 3rd-string quarterback. He would play a major role. Josh Williams taking advantage of it, punches it in.
LSU ran the ball today 51 times. The game plan was to be physical and take out all of the minimized risk by putting it in the air.
3rd and 17, it looked like a floater that the Tigers were going to pick. Instead, he hits Matt Landers for a big gain. A few plays later, Fortin, Landers down the sideline. That's 40 yards to the house.
Yeah, well, the reason he was in there was because at halftime, Coach Pittman said, look, Hornsby had 15 yards passing in the first half, and so made the change. Fortin comes in and made some incredible throws.
Razorbacks with the chance, but we talked about Harold Perkins Jr. dealing with the flu in this game. A game record. Take another look. Looking like a young Taquillo Spikes out there.
Yes, he did. And listen, they aligned him on the outside with the chop on the outside of the arm. He did it all from all different positions. Very productive and unstoppable. BK
knew it was going to be a battle.
We knew that they were going to play hard today, and they did. It's a well-coached football team. Coach Pittman does a great job. I thought Barry Odom was called a great game defensively. Their team was prepared, and they were a great challenge for us today. But we found a way to win on the road. And that's really what this is about in terms of when you play in a league like this, and in particular the SEC West, find a way to win. But 8 tackles, 4 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, all over the field, impacted the game, obviously, to the level where I don't think there's enough superlatives to talk about this young man as a true freshman coming into his own. You can imagine he was awarded the game ball, but yeah. He got sick before the game. He threw up as we were going into our team meeting, and I said, hey, MJ threw up when he had his greatest game, and he said, who's MJ? I was like, man, I am getting so old. But, yeah, he's pretty special.